Good afternoon, and welcome to today's intergenerational workshop, Creative Engagement, How to Use Right and Your Left Brain to Improve Your Sense of Well-Being. My name is Allegra Jaffe, and I am a social service specialist with the Caregiver and Supportive Service Unit with the Fairfax Area Agency on Aging. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's presentation is being recorded, and a recording will be sent to all registrants a week from today. We have enabled closed captioning in case you need it. And also there is a Q&A button on your Zoom panel where you can submit questions. We will be taking questions throughout the hour, so please ask questions as we go. And lastly, there is a brief survey as you sign out. If you could please take a moment and fill out that survey, because it really does help us create programs that are relevant and important to our caregiving community. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker and instructor, Patricia Dubroof. Patricia is a community artist who supports the art in the Rockville area through volunteer work with the Rockville Cultural Arts Commission, Rockville Art League, Rockville Chamber of Commerce, Scott Fitzgerald Literacy Festival, and others. It gives Patricia great pleasure to continue partnering with non-traditional gallery spaces through her commitment to support artists and businesses through the Capital Workplace, Sangamore Road, Bethesda, and Toller Financial Group Gallery in Silver Spring. As Patricia continues to balance arts and healing in her life, she's pleased to celebrate her 5th year with the amazing team at Assisting Hands Home Care as Director of Community Relations. Patricia, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. We are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Allegra. It's a pleasure to work with you on this piece. I'm delighted that we're taking time to intentionalize our enjoyment of making art by using our left and right brain to stimulate our creativity. So the first thing I'd like to do, and I'm not sure how many folks have joined us yet, but if we can just get a little survey of how everybody's feeling today. I know it's noontime and some people's tummies might be rumbling for lunch, but on a scale of 1 to 5, what's your happiness meter? And if you can just send that in through the chat, that would be great, or I guess through the Q&A.
Q&A, you got it.
Okay. Send it in through Q&A, just on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the happiest you possibly could feel today, and 1 being not so happy. And I'm going to just give you guys a second to do that, and then we're going to move on to some other pieces.
Did you want me to read any of these to you, Patricia?
Sure.
So we got some 5s, 4, 4, 4, 4, a 6. So that must be really good.
Excellent. Good for you.
A 2, a 4, 4, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 7, which is relaxed.
Wonderful.
So we got the numbers. They keep coming in at a 2.
Great. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And the reason that I ask is we're going to look at this again at the end and see how working in creativity has helped improve your mood or kept your mood at that level. So one of the things that's so important about tapping into your free creativity is that it does improve your mental and physical well-being. And I had the pleasure of working with Jean Cohen, Dr. Jean Cohen, who created all the seminal research on this subject. So it's clear now, and the more we engage our creativity, the better we feel. So let's start off with a little warm up. And this is a pastel painting that I did that I'm gonna move now from my work table. So you guys can all see that this is my work table here. And I'm gonna be demoing things that you'll be doing as well. You just have to reach over and put that down. There we go. So I am a painter, and color and line are really important to me. And I'm hoping that when Allegra sent out the invitation, she included, I know she did, she included a list of materials that might be nice to have on hand. So just in case you haven't had a chance to gather them, pick up some markers, maybe a pen, keep it simple. maybe you've got some pencils, colored pencils, whatever medium you think would be most easy for you to use. And we're going to start off with picking one color. And I know that's limiting, but we're going to be switching colors, but it's a way to help you see. I think this light is, yeah, that's better. I think it's going to be an easy way for you to see the progress of what we're trying to do. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to simply write your name on this piece of paper. So it could be a, piece of copy paper. It could be a back of an envelope, whatever you have handy. So I realize that everything is coming out upside down. So let me try one thing real quick and see if I can make that right side up. There we go. I had a feeling that might work. Okay, so I've written my name once and I've written it in this color blue. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close up that marker and I'm going to pick up another marker. And this time I'm going to try writing my name with my eyes closed. So this is all part of a warm up to get our left and right brain activated. So close your eyes, hold on, and write your name. And then look at them. I mean, it's not that far off. I mean, I have scribbly signature, but when you write your name, that's like one of your most authentic, creative moments. It's amazing, but people pay a lot of money to have handwriting authenticated, and that's because it's so unique. It's really difficult to copy out somebody else's authentic signature. And I know a lot of you probably don't know that check writing, which we used to do all the time. Now we all pay our bills online, but there's lots of times when you have to sign your name still. And I know we're also not teaching our children cursive. We're only teaching them how to print. So again, these are creative ways that we just automatically get involved. And when you intentionalize that, when you say, oh, writing my name is creative and I'm going to enjoy that by doing it in different colors and different ways, then it becomes more healing. So I'm going to switch colors again. And this time I'm going to try writing my name with my non-dominant hand. So I'm just curious how many left-handers, natural left-handers we have in the group. If you want to put a big L in chat or something, that would be cute, and Allegra can let me know. So for those of you who are right-handed, switch to your left hand. For those of you who are lefties, switch to your right hand. And this is can be a little more challenging. So go ahead and write your name with your non-dominant hand.
And it looks like we do have some lefties in the audience.
Great.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. So you can see that it gets a little wonky. And I'm a forced righty. I was the third child, and my dad said enough with left-handed people. So he kind of insisted that I write with my right hand. So I'm very ambidextrous. And when I'm painting and I'm not doing fine line work, I often find the brushes are in my left hand. So it's very automatic to me. So now that we've done these three styles, I'm wondering if you can do something that's different. So you've written your name maybe big in the middle of the page, or maybe you've written it small in the corner. Try the opposite. If you've written big, go small. If you've written small, go big. And take another color if you have it, so that, again, you'll be able to see the difference. I don't want to use yellow because it won't show up so easily for you. But let's take a look at what it would be like to do something very different. Because the energy that we put out when we draw automatically, and I'm just rewriting it several places, looks different. You know, when you write big, you can get flowier. When you write fast, you can get more rigid. What is it that's natural for you? And then do the opposite. So all this time, for those of you who are right-handed, you are stimulating the left side of your brain. And the left side of your brain is your logistical side. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of right-handed people are very logical thinking people. So imagine what happens when you're left-handed and you're constantly stimulating the right side of your brain. The right side of your brain is your creativity side. So that's why a lot of left-handed people are naturally more creative. So what we've been trying to do throughout this practice is stimulate the right side of your brain. Any questions so far?
No, we're good so far.
Okay, great. So let's keep going. If we take this piece of paper, this is not our precious project. This is just our scratch paper. We're doing all sorts of things on it. And using a dark color, whatever that might be for you, draw an X in the middle of the page, just a small X. I'm right on a lump, so I'm going to move my page over just a little bit. So I've got an X in the middle. And now what I want to do is I want to make two big loops connecting the two sides of the X. And I'm going to do that by going out to the very edge of my paper and coming back around. So it almost looks like a balloon. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side as well. I'm just making it as big as possible. If you have a big sheet of paper, go wide, wide, wide. If you have a small, 8 by 10 inch, just go from one edge to the other. And then we're not going to use the marker right now. We're actually just going to use our finger to trace this figure 8. So it's a lazy 8 on its side. Is everybody with me? I don't want to rush, but I want to make sure we get to a lot of things today. So, all right.
We're good.
So take your finger and start dancing around this ice skating rink, following the path that it's laid out for you. Now, if you do this and you're getting really good at it with your one hand, and I started with my right hand, my dominant hand, then switch and try it with your other hand. And you can use one finger, you can use 5 fingers, but you're basically skating around a figure 8 on its side. Now, this is a really peaceful thing to do. You could put some music on, very low key. You could just imagine the figure 8. You don't even have to draw it. Some people can do it with their toe on the ground, standing on one leg and then doing a figure 8 with your foot on the other side. Anytime you do this, it gives you a sense of calm. It brings you back to your center. And when we talk about making art, we're actually dropping into what I call our beta energy. So the alpha energy is the stuff that we use to keep everything going. We know what time it is and where the food is for lunch and all that good stuff. The beta energy is about, how do I feel about it? How can I get out of my head, which keeps thinking and thinking all the time, and drop into more of a meditative or mindful state? And I'm sure many of you have heard about mindfulness and meditation and how good it is for us. And this is a really great way to access it for people of all ages, because a lot of people are visual learners. And so having a task, having a routine that includes a little mellow time with a figure 8 can be super, super productive. You can focus on your work and you're on your computer, and instead of, everybody says, take a break, don't look at your computer for more than so many minutes, an hour. This is a great way to take that break. So I'm hoping that you'll remember this as we go forward. So we've done the 4 different ways to write your name. And then we've also done the figure 8. Now, one other important factor that I like to suggest, and hopefully more for my adults than my kids in the program, is that we want to be as ambidextrous as possible, not only to engage both brain lobes equally, but also because sometimes things happen to our dominant side. I work with a lot of folks who are stroke survivors or who have MS or Parkinson's, and it's really great for them to be able to use their non-dominant side as naturally as their dominant side. So if you've broken your arm, if you were a kid who ever broke her arm or her wrist, and you've had to use your other hand to brush your teeth or brush your hair, that's a really good practice. And I would say keep that flexibility going. You know, when you reach for something at the table, notice which hands you reach with and maybe try the other hand. Try that left hand or try that right hand if you're left-handed. We just want to keep the brain lobes more balanced. And in order to do that, you have to activate. It has to be a kinesthetic connection. All right, so we're going to go, if there's no questions about this little warm up, now that we're warmed up, we're going to go ahead and start a little art project. And it's challenging for me as a teacher because I can't see what you're working on to give you feedback, but I'm going to hope that you'll give yourself really positive feedback on whatever you make. There are no mistakes in making art. There's just revision and learning. It's so easy. It's one of the best places to build self-esteem and a healthy ego, because nothing you could do can be wrong. It can just be revised. It can be a lesson learned. So we're going to start off with a note card, and I'm just reaching behind me to get all the materials I brought for you to see. All right. So another great way to gain more good health through art is by appreciations and gratitude. And so what I like to do is, before I create a note card, I like to think about who this note card is for and share some gratitude of that person. So maybe this time of year, Father's Day is coming up. Maybe you want to make a Father's Day card or a Grandfather's Day card. Maybe you know someone who's graduating from a college or a high school or even kindergarten. And so if you have a person in mind that you want to make the card for, let's put that in the Q&A and let's see who's making cards for who. So give yourself a minute. And then find a piece of paper. Like I said before, it can be an 8.5 by 11 that you fold 4 ways, or not really 4 ways, but twice. So you could take a piece of paper that's this size, you could fold it once, and then you could fold it again, and it becomes a note card. Just that easy.
And it looks like we have Father's Day card for my mom, my mother, a birthday card for a friend, spouse. So some great cards coming.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good to know. Thanks, everybody. I love it when I get some feedback. I know I'm not here alone with Allegra. So let's take this note card. I'm going to fold it in half this way. I'm going to leave the envelope for later. And I'm just going to I have this blue tape. It's not something you have to do. And since I don't know that everybody has it, I'll show you what that's like, but I'll also do it without it. Okay. So one thing that's good sometimes to do is just use a little bit of tape. And the blue tape is great because it doesn't rip your paper when you take it back off. It's painter's tape, designed to help you paint a straight line, but we use it in the art world all the time to help us keep things steady. So I'm just going to put a little piece of tape at the bottom of my page. And basically the next thing I want to do, now that I know who I want to send it to, is what's my subject matter? Is it going to be seasonal, spring, summer? Is it going to include colors from the spring? Am I dreaming about going on vacation to someplace warm and sunny without fire hazing? What is it that you're inspired by? Is it animals? Is it people? Is it a hat that you love or a teapot that you favor? What would it be that would give you inspiration? And we're just drawing from our memory here. There's no need to go find any object to draw. We're just going to have fun with this. It can be totally abstract. It can have lines and shapes and simple colors. I have a couple of examples I can show you. This is a flower piece that one of my participants made once. You can see it's very pastel-y. She's got a nice color scheme going on. And here's another one that's more, it looks like it could be a seascape with maybe some people or activity going on in the foreground. It's very abstract. And then there's another one. This is one I was going to show you how we tape the edges of a piece of paper. So a little bit, excuse me, I would say about half of the tape width is hidden, hiding the paper. And then I draw on it, and it's very abstract, stripes. And then when I peel off, it makes that nice sharp line along this edge. So I can show you that a little bit more later. So think about what it is that your theme is for your image, and then you can start working on it with the colors that you've pulled together. Or maybe you're working with just a pen. One thing you can do to set up the page is to create a border. So again, I'm just going to shift over here so you can see better. And I'm just going to create a little border right around the edge of my paper. And now I can fill the frame. So tell me what you're going to fill the frame with. Let's get some ideas going. What are the colors that you have available? How would you like to make use of them?
A pen with dog prints, dog paws.
Oh, wow, that's a cute idea.
Flowers, that's another one we have from the audience too.
Great. All right, so I'm going to introduce a couple of materials that you may or may not have handy today, but you can always get at your convenience. So this is a toothbrush. And no, I'm not going to teach you how to brush your teeth, but I am going to teach you what I call the flicking method to get some sparkles, some, not sparkles, polka dots on your page. So I'm going to show you that. And then this is a sponge brush. And it's really nice because it just absorbs some water and it can blend markers. So that's fun. And then of course a paintbrush, and there's lots of different shapes and lengths and styles of paintbrushes. And they're also very fun to use when you want to blend colors. So we're going to save those for a little bit later, but if you happen to have any of those items around and you want to bring them to the table, that would be lovely. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm kind of vibing on a beach scene, just feeling kind of beachy. So I'm going to put some waves here on my image. And then I'm going to put some sky colors. Although after this past week, we could say there's a lot of orange in the sky. And maybe we'll have a little bit of that with a big sun setting over here, maybe. And some of that sunset comes into the water. And maybe the sand is also part of this in some way. Maybe there's some beach down here. And I'm drawing very quickly. I'm not thinking much. I'm just letting the colors dictate where they want to be. You know, do we want a little more of a sunset? Maybe we want a little more color in the sky. So if you notice, I'm using my markers on different levels. There's the point of the marker, and I can get dots out of that point. And then there's the side angle where I can get wide strokes. And this one's just a little bit dried out, but you know, it makes a nice color. Sometimes those dried out ones are really fun. You can dip them in water and they come back to life, and voila, you've got lots more color in there. All right, and then I might want to take that sponge brush. I'm just dipping it in a little water. And I might just want to fuse some of that sand so that I get a little bit less of a curly look, but more of a sandy look, like that. And maybe I want to do the same thing with my sea foam. I'm going to put a little more color in there before I start to blend. Ooh, that's jarred. That's bright. Let's see what happens when I blend it. There we go. And all of a sudden it's a little diffused. And when it dries, which it shouldn't take very long, what's nice about markers being used as watercolors is that when they dry, you can go back over them with the marker again to make more pointed places that you'd like to connect with. So I could put a little bird in there, or maybe I need to add a little more of that sunset, but I'm just going to let it dry over here while we finish doing our own paintings.
That is so neat, Patricia. I've never seen using that little sponge tool with markers to make it look like that.
Very fun. Isn't that fun? So is anybody out there using a sponge or a brush? I really wish I could see all your paintings, but I know I can't.
Somebody is doing mountains.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would do that, what I call sprinkling, for lack of a better word. So what I do is
you have a brush. Someone is using the brush too.
Oh, good. So I've got my toothbrush, and believe me, it's an old toothbrush, hasn't been used on a face in a long time. And I'm going to put some dark color ink on it. And I'm just going to do that by just rubbing a little bit on the surface. And then I'm going to dip it very gently into the water, just a touch of water. If it's too wet, it'll make plops. And then I'm going to test it on my back paper first. And I'm just going to see, oh, there it goes. It's starting to make, I don't know if you can see that. Okay. It's starting to make little tiny dots. And I'm going to put some more color on it because I think I didn't put enough on before. And now I'm going to try it again here. There we go. It makes the prettiest little dots. And like I said, you can use more water to make it more textured. But it almost looks like raindrops. I'll call it the raindrop effect. Misting and raindrops. All right, so I'm still waiting a little bit for mine to dry, but I see that there's room for me to put some more color in. I kind of want to get this. So you should know that when you put two colors on top of each other, they change color, right? So if you put yellow and red together, it's likely you're going to get kind of an orange. And if you put yellow and blue together, you're going to get something of a green. And if you put red and blue together, you may or may not be able to see, especially with markers, some sort of purple. So those are our primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And each of those colors matched, paired with another color, make a third color. So we have primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. But without getting into a whole heavy discussion about color theory, just know that, you know, when you mix those colors together, you might get some really cool effects. Now, most crayon boxes or marker boxes come with a variety of colors. So you get nice things like magenta, you get turquoise, and, you know, just go wild, have fun with them. So I want my horizon line to have a little bit of dark to it because it's getting to be sunset here. And maybe I want to just emphasize a little bit more in the water again. I kind of like that look we were getting before. And maybe just for fun, I want to put some grains of sand in the beach. So I'm going to just use my dot maker. And again, if you go fast, it looks one way. If you go slow, it looks a different way. So vary your tempo too. Now, typically when I'm working live with folks in a classroom or, you know, workspace, it gets really quiet when people start concentrating. And then I don't talk either. But I can't see you, so I can't tell how far along you are. So let's see what we can do with this image. So now we've got this beautiful, I think it's a nice little sandscape, seascape. I'm going to show you up close some of the dots. And the waves, and a little bit of that sunset. And I'm going to let it dry. And now I'm going to work on another kind of creativity. So this was visual arts. Now let's work on a little bit of language arts. So the Japanese created a short form poetry called haiku, Haiku. And it's a lot of fun to write haiku because it's very limited. And I have a friend in New Zealand who she and her daughter started creating haikus that were 1 syllable haiku and 6 syllable haiku. But the traditional is 5, 7, 5. And those are syllables. So you can take a word like sunshine, and that has 2 syllables, sunshine. And typically you want to have a scratch paper where you can start working on the poem that's going to go inside your card. So you've got this beautiful card. I'm going to stay with this theme of sunset and the beach and tranquility. Ooh, tranquility has a lot of syllables. Tranquility, it has 4. So I might even start off with that and say, my tranquility. And then, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I need a 7 syllable next line. So my tranquility. I'm thinking something along the lines of finding, which is 2 syllables, finding peace at the seashore. There's 7. And then I need a closing sentence. Maybe something with sunset. Sunset feeds my soul. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I think that's it. So here's my poem. And maybe Allegra, you could put it in Q&A so that people can see how the rhythm works.
Sure.
So 5 syllables, my tranquility. 7 syllables, finding peace at the seashore. And 5 syllables, sunset feeds my soul. So if you've never read haiku before, it's a really fun poetry, way to get involved in poetry. I know a lot of people have a hard time understanding poetry. There's a lot of references to other things hidden in poems often. I find that with haiku, you can kind of get it right off. And there's haiku that's funny. There's haiku that's like a joke, like, is that the answer? There's haiku that's sensitive, love haikus, you name it, it's there. And of course, you know, some are also very esoteric and mean many things to many people. But take a look online or at a bookstore and look for haiku, Haiku. So now what I can do is I can open my card. Just want to see how we're doing. Oh, we're good. I can open my card and I can put my words in here. I could also, if I want it to be more formal or different typeface, I could print it on my computer, and then I could make it a collage card and cut it and paste it into the center. But for today, I'm just going to write it, and I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use colored markers to write it. There's an idea. So let's see. The first one says, my tranquility. So I think I'm going to make that in blue. All right. So for those of you who are young enough not to know how to write, you can ask a grown-up to help you. So my tranquility. And then let's see, what other color? Maybe a light turquoise. Finding peace at the seashore. And again, writing these letters, every time you write a letter, you're creating a design. It just happens to be a universal design that everybody can understand. So my handwriting is not particularly perfect, but it's legible in this case. Sometimes it's not. And then I'm going to say sunset feeds my soul. And, you know, some people like to put a date when they create something and they like to sign it. So sometimes it's a nice idea to sign your name and put the month and the year. I guess we're in 6/23. Wow. So there I've got my note card signed. Oop, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. There's my signature again. You can see that. And then inside is my haiku. And then I might write a little note to the person that I've created this for. So I wanted to introduce one other aspect of creativity that you may be very familiar with. And that is music. So while I'm making art, I love to have music playing that inspires me. And it could be Mozart, it could be country, it could be jazz, whatever music it is that inspires you, that helps create that healing space. It may be sounds of the ocean. Some people love listening to those kinds of music threads. So whatever music might interest you, does anybody have an idea of a music sound that they would want to hear while they were diving into their artwork?
I'm going to give them just a moment and we'll see if you can use the Q&A button here. Zen music is what
Oh, there you go.
said. Zen music. Ocean waves. That's a good one. Classical music.
Lovely. There actually is a whole study on how Mozart affects your brain. When you listen to Mozart, it actually has very good quality effects on your brain.
We have tenors, lo-fi music, And I just want to remind the audience, we can't have you come off mute. I see somebody raise their hand. If you can use the Q&A box. Thank you.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about, I leave music for the end because I feel like music is so accessible, and even more so now. I mean, I grew up with 45s and uh, 33 and a thirds records, and then, moved to cassette tapes, and then moved to CDs, and then eventually got into digital music. But I still love to play my records because they give you a whole group of songs by the same artist, and you can get really into that mode of that artist's work. Much like, if you go to a museum and you see a painting by one artist, a painting by another, and another, and another, versus an entire exhibition of one artist's work. So when I listen to an album, I feel like I'm immersing into that artist's world. And I find that's very calming. So just depends on what you like. Some people make playlists and listen to all sorts of different musicians, one after the other. There's a button on the old CD player that I have. It's called Shuffle. and that, just randomly picked up from 5 different CDs, different songs. But music is also one of the last things we remember as we end our lives. And I think that's really powerful too. So I wanted to make sure that you also are aware of the self-care attributes of making art. So when you make art, you're taking care of yourself. And I think that is critical, especially now when we are in recovery from the COVID experience. We're getting barraged by weather issues because of global warming. And it's important to be able to take care of ourselves, whatever that means, whether it's a hot cup of tea or a bowl of ice cream, or sitting down and making some art. So for those of you who've never sat down to make art before, today, I welcome you to this practice. It's all good. There is nothing you can do wrong in making art. And if you don't like what's on your piece of paper, guess what? You can recycle it. And then you've done good for the planet anyway. So never fear when you're making art that there's going to be a bunch of mistakes. It's all about you sharing and growing and learning. Granted, if you want to make perfectly perfect portraits of people, it takes a long time to learn how to do that. And most artists who do that have a natural inclination to be able to do that. It's very difficult to teach someone to do that without that natural flow. But if you want to make art that makes you feel good and that you can share with others, like in a note card, how lovely to be able to receive a note card handmade by a friend saying, I love you. I think you're wonderful. Happy birthday, happy graduation, happy anniversary, happy having a day, just thinking of you. I think we could do a lot more of that and improve all of our mental health through that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity
Patricia?
to ask questions. Sure.
Yes, I do have a question that came in, and if anyone else would like to ask questions, this is the time because we're going to be wrapping up soon. But someone asked, would you say that the best way to engage our left brain or creative side would be through arts?
Absolutely. I think it's a great way to engage. And, there are ways to do it through physical therapy as well. So using your left hand more so that it engages that right lobe. As we get older, and I don't know what the age group is of this particular group, but as you get to be in your 50s and over, the left and right brain have sort of built up this great gray matter in between. And that's why the phrase, the wiser as we age, or wisdom, the greater wisdom when you're older, that all comes from the fact that we're integrating left and right brain much better than even when we were younger. So that's a benefit of aging. If you're aging healthy, you're actually using your left and right brain a lot more sympathetically or simultaneously, I guess. So it makes for some fun discussion, and it makes you feel like when your grandkids or your kids ask you questions, you feel like, oh, I know this stuff. And that's because you're engaging so well both sides of the lobes. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. And for family caregivers that are so busy and may have, several generations they're caring for, this definitely seems like something the whole family could do together. Would you agree that?
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've pulled out paper and markers at a restaurant when you're got little kids and everybody's like hungry and fidgety, and we get busy doing a note card for somebody, and all of a sudden it's quiet and everybody's drawing, and the food comes and they're like, we're not ready yet. We're still drawing. So that's a great tool to use. And especially if you're in a waiting room, I know it's very difficult for kids when they have to be in a waiting room before a doctor visit, or maybe you're waiting for an airplane or a train or a bus, or the kids are in the car for a long period of time. Etch a sketch or drawing is so much fun to do. I highly recommend it. Use it when you can. And you know what? The more, as a parent or a caregiver, the more you show by example how enjoyable it is, the more your kids will turn to it naturally. So it's the same thing with yoga. It's the same thing with music, with poetry, the gift of reading. The more you read to your children, the more they'll want to read. So I encourage all of that creativity activity to keep everybody sort of even and self-caring. It's so important.
Thank you. Another question. Oh, sorry. Were you done, Patricia?
Go ahead.
Oh, another question is, what are some art suggestions to engage a loved one with dementia?
Oh, well, that's actually very much in my field. I've spent 35 years in the field of aging and art. And actually, what you want to make sure is that when you're engaging with someone with dementia, no judgment. Everything they do is perfectly perfect. There's no need to criticize or redirect. This is an opportunity for them to show what they can do. And for a lot of folks with dementia, they haven't had pens or markers in their hands because they don't have to write their name anymore. They're not signing off on things anymore. And that has a lot to do with ego and self-esteem. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. Making art is a great way to build back that self-esteem that one loses when their cognitive challenges increase. And I highly recommend art. And it's not about the product, it's about the process. A very good friend of mine who works also in this field, she's a textile artist by the name of Lauren Kingsland, has created this concept called slow listening. And what it means is that you're working with someone who has challenges, and your job is to just listen, just let them evolve. Sometimes it helps if it's a collaborative. I've had a lot of folks with cognitive challenges say, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to start. And I'll say, well, I'll draw a line and you draw a line. And all of a sudden we're off and running. Or they'll direct me. They'll say, well, you put something on the page. And I'm like, okay, what color? Pick a color. And they'll pick a color and they'll put something on the page. And then I'll say, okay, here's a blue. You put something on the page. And that usually warms it up. Something about a blank piece of paper can be very intimidating. I don't know why, but that's just the way, we see it as like this perfectly perfect thing that we're going to ruin. And my feeling is it's a piece of paper. We can recycle it at the end. So again, keeping that in the forefront, that this is about the process and the level of joy. So I'm going to ask everybody to quickly put a number in the chat box again about how you're feeling now that you've had almost an hour of creative engagement. Bravo to all of you for participating. And if there's one thing that you're going to remember from this hour session, what would that be? I would love to know what your takeaway is.
So we have 5 super relaxed, a 5, 3.75, a 4, a 5, a 7, a 7, a 6. Calm is a word somebody used.
Great.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So one of my favorite art students are the ones who draw outside the line. So bravo to all you who are giving me 7s and 8s and calms and relaxations and all that. You can always change the survey. It's great. I love it.
We have art is always a way to take care of myself.
Great takeaway.
It's just paper. There's no wrong or bad art.
Good on you.
That arts are related to the left side of the brain and helps with feeling well and happy.
So right lobe, but good concept. I like it.
Takeaway, it's the process of the art that matters. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Good.
And someone, I just wanted to share with the audience, I will be sharing Patricia's contact in our follow-up email too. So,
yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I have a I have a website presence, and I have a lot of information in my website, and lots of course, the images that I make. I'd be happy to share that with you all. And if you have a group that would like to have a live sip and paint or painting class, whatever, I'm happy to have those too. I really enjoy, you can tell I'm a passionate teacher, and I love encouraging people to take time to take care of yourself. Thank you so much.
thank you. You know, another thing I noticed that you mentioned too, Patricia, is the everything you're doing, it could be a group activity. So that card, you could have a young child doing the dots. You could have somebody else doing the brush.
The words,
you
yep.
know, and everyone can get involved, which is terrific. It's just such a great way to have the whole family or
Yep.
your friends. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I really appreciate this was a great workshop. Thank you so much to our audience as well for being here. Really appreciate your time. We have folks in the chat that are thanking you, Patricia, and said thanks so much for this great session. So I do want to let us know we're going to wrap up our time together. And I wanted to remind you, there is a brief survey at the end. So if you have comments for Patricia, you can feel free to put it there and we'll share those with Patricia. And we also love to know, what else you're looking forward to doing in the future and what you would like to see. I want to invite you to our last intergenerational workshop, which is next week. It's Presente, a Latino history of the United States on June 16th from 12 to 1 p.m. And this session is going to be facilitated in collaboration with the Smithsonian Institute, with the National Museum of the American Latino. You can join us for an introduction to the important ideas, moments, and people that shine a light on the many ways Latinas and Latinos shape the nation. And again, thank you so much for your time. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you again, Patricia.
My pleasure. Love being here.
Thank you.
Bye,
Take care,
everybody.
everyone.